In 2012, Major League Soccer officially confirmed that there was league interest in re-expansion into the Miami region after the folding of Miami Fusion FC in 2001. In 2014, the league awarded the expansion franchise in Miami to an ownership group helmed by a former MLS player that went by the name of Beckham? Never heard of him, but he looks like he won a lot. Since then, count them, 6 expansion clubs have been added to Major League Soccer, one within the state of Florida. Cincinnati was started and moved up from USL within the span of time that Miami spent in development hell. But in 2020, we will see a Major League Soccer team play in Miami for the first time in 19 seasons, and that's something to be excited about. They'll be playing under the name Inter Miami CF, pending litigation from that club in Italy. Miami's MLS history is already off to a rocky start. Unlike with the USL call-up franchises, Miami has to start from scratch, which can go a couple of different ways. In Atlanta and Los Angeles' case, as I covered in my previous video, it can be very successful if you do it right. New York City took a couple of years, but they eventually did reach stability, and Philly and Toronto, it took them a little while longer, but they did eventually reach a state of stability. Miami, at least so far, though, has not been a pillar of stability. But as they say, winning cures all. They already have great support from fans, their temporary stadium does look pretty nice, and they seem to be following the Atlanta model of signing young, talented players from South America and matching them with experienced veteran talent from the United States. This video is best case, worst case Miami, where we take a look at my prediction for potentially the best case season that Inter Miami could have in 2020 and the worst case season that Inter Miami could have in 2020. I'm Joe Bush. This is MLS. It was the great Will Smith who said, "Party in the city where the heat is on, all night on the beach till the break of dawn. Welcome to Miami." However, within the past 2 years, reportedly, Neymar Jr., Antoine Griezmann, Roger Martinez, Edinson Cavani, Luis Suarez, Gareth Bale, David Silva, Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo have all turned that offer down. Said, I am not going to Miami. However, this does not stop them from being a really good team in the 2020 season. I think their ceiling would be probably akin to what Los Angeles or Atlanta had in their first season. Just looking at the way they developed their roster, I really like it to start here. They went after youth where they needed to on the attack in Carranza, Acosta, and Pellegrini, and they signed veteran defensive players in AJ De La Garza, Ben Sweat, Luis Robles. I think they made a good move in pursuing Mikey Ambrose. Victor Ulloa showed a lot of potential at Cincinnati last year, and of course Will Trapp, you know what you're going to get from him. Maybe not so much in terms of depth, but in terms of a first 11, especially after the Pizarro signing, this is one of the most talented expansion rosters I've seen in MLS history. The important thing when you get good veteran talent in the midfield and in defense is that you know what to expect out of them. You've had years of experience with them, and you don't have to worry about whether or not they're really going to succeed or not. You're really more worried about a guy like Will Trapp or AJ De La Garza getting hurt more so than you are having like an inconsistent season, atypical for the resume they've put together. I think where the season is going to swing is on the high potential young talent that Miami signed. Their first DP signing ever was Matias Pellegrini, a 19-year-old winger from Estudiantes de La Plata in Argentina. I would compare him to another coastal team 2 years ago who signed a 19-year-old Diego Rossi out of Peñarol in Uruguay. I think if they get that sort of performance out of Pellegrini, things are going to turn out really well. I had some questions at forward initially, but I think Pizarro is one of the better signings you could make to assuage those fears. It's not on the level of the guys they wanted to get, in the Griezmann or the Cavani sort of attacking player, but it's still a really good Mexican international player who I think is going to provide precisely what they need from the forward position. I also like the young prospect Robbie Robinson out of Clemson. You don't know how well he's going to do in his first season, as with any NCAA product, but I think he's promising. He was one of the best players in the college ranks last year. He could turn out like a Shinya Shiki. He could turn out like a Kyle Larin. He could turn out like a Kyrie Shelton, too, and take a couple years to develop, but I still think there's a lot of potential there, and that was a good first draft pick for the team. So defense, midfield, goalkeeping, I'm pretty confident in. They all seem to be in really good shape for Miami, and that spells something really good for the upcoming year. If that attacking talent, now I know Acosta is injured, and they also are kind of have to lean on Juan Agudelo to really break out the way he's supposed to have broken out any of the past 10 years. But I think Pizarro is at least going to be enough of a goal scorer. I'm hoping they get enough out of Rodgers, and I think they probably could compete for maybe a top 4 seed, maybe hosting a playoff game. I doubt that they'd progress deep into the playoffs. I think they're likely, expansion teams just generally don't win in their first year in the playoffs. Atlanta lost out to Columbus in their first playoff match. Los Angeles lost out to RSL in their first playoff match in 2018. I don't know that Miami's going to be the team to buck that trend. I think there's so many expectations for an expansion team in their first playoff match that the moment tends to get to them. They haven't really experienced it before, as with a lot of more experienced MLS teams have, so they just kind of fall behind and don't know how to get back. That's what happened to LA 2 years ago. Of course, we're really looking forward there, but I think it is entirely possible that Miami puts together a season where they end up hosting a playoff match. That would be an immense success, really the best case for Inter Miami CF, and they would be proud of that. So the worst case kind of comes off of the pitch. I suppose the worst case on the pitch would be that you don't have the goal scoring at the rate that you would want. All of your kind of pieces on the attack that you need to be successful end up not being successful. So that would be like Pellegrini not developing, Rodgers not developing, Agudelo being what we've come to expect out of Agudelo, and then Pizarro just not getting accustomed to MLS until later on in the season, kind of similar to Omar Bravo, who was in on a similar level with Kansas City in 2011. And I guess the other question I might have on the pitch would be, it gets very hot in Miami. It is hot as hell in Miami for most of the season. So when it's hot in Kansas City or New Jersey or Minnesota, that's about a month and a half out of the year. I mean, hell, a Quebec summer sucks. Don't go to Quebec in the summer. It's really not a good time. But Miami is so hot, so humid the entire year. It seems like you're going to be in that worst case from April to the end of September. And I have to wonder, if you've got so many veterans, particularly on the defensive end, how are they going to hold up? Are they going to be able to be conditioned for the full season? I think that's an honest question that Miami's going to need to grapple with. Now, maybe that doesn't happen at all. Maybe their conditioning is good enough. Maybe the heat affects other teams worse than it affects them. That's pretty common. I guess Orlando's played soccer for several years, but they haven't exactly been successful yet. So that's a whole problem. But no, I think actually the worst case scenario for Miami would come off of the pitch. By my calculation, I'd say there are about 5 clubs in MLS I would call a glamour club, where they can swing big checks around and expect to get great European players back. I'd say Los Angeles FC, LA Galaxy, Atlanta United, New York City FC, and I'm adding Toronto FC in here. And I know Seattle fans, you have a valid bone to pick with that, but at the same time, Seattle just hasn't been the guys signing the big name European prospects, short of Rui Diaz and Ladero, which are a couple of years in the past now. They just haven't been swinging the money around to bring guys in. They haven't been getting the Pozuelos or the Chicharitos or any guys like that. And I mean, they're winning. It's not like calling them not a glamour club is an insult. I mean, they've got trophies to back it up. It's just a matter of the way you run your club. Now, I think Miami could have been this club and still can be this club. I mean, you are Miami. You are in the city of Miami, which is kind of a glamorous city, or at least is perceived as a glamorous city around the world. You're owned by David Beckham. Your name is Inter Miami CF, a lawsuit pending. I would assume that they would sign somebody big. I am very surprised that it is February. We're only a couple of weeks away from the first regular season MLS matches played, and they haven't signed that Cavani or that David Silva or that Luis Suarez or anybody, really, like, that's a big name signing out of Europe. Now, I think Pizarro's a good signing. I like the Pizarro signing, but he's not Antoine Griezmann. And that's less on the pitch level of play sort of deal. That's more on a prestige sort of deal. Are you going to become the Inter Miami CF that I think most fans expected we were going to get, that I think most of the front office at Inter Miami thought they were going to get? And if they can't pull through like a big name signing during the year, and they still have time. I remember Pozuelo signed, I believe, during the season after like the first week with Toronto last year, and obviously there's a mid-season signing window where that could completely happen. But if that doesn't happen, that is like another domino in a list of dominoes of front office instability for Inter Miami CF. You've got the fact that they're going to be in this Fort Lauderdale stadium for at least 2 more seasons. And what if that stadium that they've had so much trouble building, what if that doesn't come to fruition in the time span that they want to? Are we going to see a New York City FC situation just down south now, and they're stuck playing in Fort Lauderdale for, rather than 1 or 2 seasons, that becoming 4 or 5 seasons? Miami is a city that is accustomed. Well, I shouldn't say accustomed. Miami is a city that has been burned recently by the Marlins, by the Dolphins, by the Panthers. Those fans deserve better, I would say. They have a lot of shitty front offices in Miami, Florida, save for the Heat, who seem to be doing stuff well. I think Miami fans are well established. I live in San Diego, we have kind of a similar reputation, like the fans here, that they don't, not necessarily a not caring sort of thing, but you gotta win to bring people in. You have to be exciting. Like, if they're not doing that, if they're not getting the big name signings, if they're not getting players that casual Miami fans are going to go to the stadium for, rather than just being in Miami, which I've never been there, but I mean, it seems like a great place to just hang out on a Saturday afternoon. I mean, there are much worse places to hang out on a Saturday afternoon than the beach in Miami. I think if they can't swing that, they risk becoming just another club, and I don't think that's what MLS wanted out of Inter Miami. I don't think that's what David Beckham, obviously I don't think that's what David Beckham would want. I think Miami needs to be the Inter Miami CF on like a prestige level, the kind of world-known club. People know who you're talking about when you're talking about the LA Galaxy, I think, in Europe. When you say you're going to MLS, I think there's an assumption that you're going to a club like an LA Galaxy and LAFC, New York City. I think Miami has a shot to be that. They just can't waste that and then also be playing in this erector set stadium and then also lose the name. Like, if they lose the Inter Miami CF name, that's going to be horrible for them. Now, of course, I'm a Sporting Kansas City fan. We also went through the one season with a shitty name and then picked a different one. Even though I like the Inter Miami name, we were the Kansas City Wiz for 1 year, and things turned out okay after having to change the name after 1 year. But still, that's so... With those many things racking up, I think that could lead to... You don't want to become the Miami Marlins of soccer, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And I don't think they necessarily have to, because I think Inter Miami is going to win a lot of matches on the pitch this year. The thing that separates them from the Dolphins, I think, is that they have a pretty good team. I like Miami a lot, is what I'm saying. On the pitch, I'm saying in the front office, the worst case for them is to just have more instability, which is not what the league needs, not what Miami needs. But yeah, that's basically it. I think the worst thing that they can do if you are Inter Miami CF is to not act like Inter Miami CF. If you don't have, by the end of the year, if people see Inter Miami as a dysfunctional club in the front office playing in a temporary stadium for way too long, if they're basically Miami Fusion FC again, that is the worst possible thing for them, because they would be squandering basically the potential to be what is likely the last new glamour club in Major League Soccer. And here we are at the end of the video. A couple different things I wanted to say before we actually get to the finish. First of all, My Nashville video is rendered a little bit obsolete by their signing of Walker Zimmerman. That I think is a really good signing. Don't think it makes them a playoff team, but certainly raises their floor. At least raises their floor above the bottom of the league. I don't think they're going to be in wooden spoon contention, considering what happened to Cincinnati. That sucks that happened, and I cannot imagine that this is a good season for FC Cincinnati. That's about all I got. Hope that made sense. It was a little bit tough to do a video on Inter Miami because they have not played a match yet, do not really have any footage for that team yet. Like I did with Nashville, I could at least kind of build up an understanding of what that team was based off of their USL play last year. Didn't really have that with this team. Kind of a completely unknown quantity. Hope I'm not being too optimistic about them. Hope I don't see them flame out by mid-June. Don't expect them to. I actually do think they have a very good core though. So that's about all I got. You can follow me on Twitter, though. I don't really use it that much there. JoeBush_JoeBush. And you can read the blog, joebush.net. Thanks so much. That was the video. I guess that's how I end videos now.